They kicked her. Not because she did anything wrong. Not because she started a fight. But because of a single sentence she said out loud. My mom's a Navy SEAL. That's all it took. One quiet truth from a 12-year-old girl at a school PTA meeting at Riverside Elementary School. And the room turned on her. They called her a liar, mocked her, laughed in her face, and then their son kicked her in the shin hard enough to leave a mark. They thought no one was watching. But then the door opened and the woman they said didn't exist stepped into the hallway. She didn't raise her voice, didn't break anything, didn't even blink. But what she did next would change how that school treated her daughter forever. Now, before we show you the moment a room full of Marines realized who they just messed with and how this Navy SEAL mother reclaimed her daughter's name in total silence, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. Hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. Because today's story isn't about payback, it's about precision. The overhead fluorescents buzzed faintly in the multi-purpose room of Riverside Elementary School, casting a sterile glow over plastic folding chairs and coffee-stained PDA printouts. It was 6:07 p.m. The teacher was already 2 minutes behind schedule, but nobody seemed to mind. Parents were still filtering in with oversized purses, tired siblings, and thinly veiled expectations. Paper name tags clung to blouses and polo shirts. Someone was pouring lukewarm lemonade into styrofoam cups near the back. Ava Thompson sat in the far left corner, legs crossed tightly at the ankle, her back straight, even though the metal chair dug into her spine. She was 12, small for her age, with dark hair tied into a tight braid, and a folder gripped flat across her lap like it might fly away if she loosened her fingers. Her eyes flicked to the door every few seconds. Once, twice, again. Still no sign of her mom. She hadn't eaten much since lunch, but her stomach wasn't empty. It was full of something heavier. Not dread, just pressure around her. Other students beamed under the glow of parental pride. My dad flew in just for this? One girl whispered loudly to her friend. Another boy gestured toward his father's camo uniform, neatly pressed and still catching looks. Everywhere, Ava glanced. Someone had someone. She just had a folder. A cluster of adults occupied the center right table. For parents who clearly knew each other too well. 2 of them were Marine dads, broad-chested with buzz cuts and base ID tags still hanging from their belts. Their wives were louder than they needed to be, laughing at half-funny stories about base politics, deployments, and whatever little stunt the school tried last year. The kind of people who treated the PDA like a command room. One of them glanced over at Ava. Looks like someone got stood up again, she said. Not quietly. The man next to her snorted. Or her mom's still in traffic from wherever imaginary parents drive in from. The others chuckled. Ava didn't respond. She didn't even look over. Her fingers just tightened slightly on the folder. The teacher, a well-meaning but chronically overwhelmed Miss Harrison, clapped her hands together with an awkward smile. Okay, if we could all take our seats, we'll begin our quarterly progress check-in. Students, thanks for joining. You're all brave for sitting through this. Laughter rippled. Ava didn't move. She sat straighter. Still no sign of her mom. But even so, she knew she was coming. She always came, just sometimes late, but never missing. And Ava held on to that like it was armor no one else could see. Names were being called like roll call, but for parents. Miss Harrison had tried to keep things light, asking each student to stand up, say their name, and introduce the parent or guardian they brought. Something about community building, she'd said. Let's remind everyone we're a team, she added, smiling too widely. Ava didn't feel like part of any team. Not right now. One by one, the kids stood and proudly announced the obvious. I'm Emma. That's my mom. She's the PDA vice chair. I'm Jaden. My dad's back from deployment. Sergeant Reed. I'm Ethan. My parents are over there with the coffee. Claps and smiles. Easy applause for having shown up. And then it was Ava's turn. Miss Harrison looked her way. Ava, wanna go ahead? Ava stood slowly, folder still in one hand. Her voice didn't waver, but it wasn't loud either. My name's Ava Thompson, she said. My mom's running late. She's a Navy SEAL. The room went quiet, but not the kind of silence that respected what was said. It was the kind that paused, then shifted. Marine Dad number 1 chuckled under his breath. Marine Mom number 2 snorted. Miss Harrison blinked. Oh well, I'm sure she'll be here soon. But the comment had already landed. Wait, a dad muttered. Did she say seal? The Marine Mom with the big earrings raised her eyebrows. Sweetheart, seals don't do PTA night. Sorry. The dad next to her laughed louder. She's been watching movies. Next, she'll say her mom parachuted into the gymnasium. Ava sat down without reacting. Another woman leaned sideways. That's not a thing. There's no such thing as a female seal, right? Marine Dad Parker, the loudest of the group, shrugged. If there is, they don't show up to middle school meetings. A ripple of soft laughter moved through their side of the room. She really is, Ava said quietly, more to the desk than anyone else. She's on base. She's just training today. Marine Mom Karen tilted her head mockingly. Honey, it's okay to admit you made it up. Ava didn't flinch, but her shoulders edged inward. Or maybe she meant Navy clerk. Another voice said, those wear camo too. Even some of the kids were smirking now, not out of cruelty, but imitation. They followed their parents' tones like weather patterns. Miss Harrison tried to steer the conversation forward, calling on the next child, but the air had changed. Ava stared straight ahead, gripping her folder harder than before. Not crying, not correcting, just waiting because her mother was a Navy SEAL, and she was coming. The meeting broke for a 10-minute stretch. A chance for parents to refill coffee and for kids to wander into the hallway that connected the multipurpose room to the main classroom wing. The murmur of adult conversation spilled into the corridor, mixing with the clatter of lockers and the squeak of sneakers on old floor wax. Ava slipped out quietly, clutching her folder against her chest. She chose a bench halfway down the hall near the lost and found bin and a poster about anti-bullying that felt like an ironic decoration rather than a rule. She kept her head low and her braid tucked neatly over one shoulder. If she made herself small enough, maybe the attention would fade. Didn't. The same group of parents, the Marines and their spouses, stepped into the hall with the kind of loud confidence people use when they're sure no one will correct them. Their teenage son and daughter trailed behind, talking too loudly, pointing at things that weren't funny. Marine Dad number 1 spotted Ava immediately. There's our storyteller. His wife smirked. Still no mom. Maybe she swam here from San Diego and got tired halfway. The teenage boy laughed under his breath as they approached. Ava stood, intending to walk away, but Marine Mom Karen shifted just enough to block her path, pretending it was accidental. Whoa there, she said, tone sweet but blade sharp. No need to rush off. Marine Dad Parker leaned down a little. Let's hear it again, he said. Say your mom's a SEAL. We all need the entertainment. Ava's voice was barely above a whisper. She is. The boy flicked her folder with 2 fingers. Casual, careless, sending it tumbling from her hands. Papers fanned across the floor like feathers. Math quizzes, a permission slip, a progress report she'd been proud of. Oops, he said. Clumsy. Ava dropped to her knees immediately, scooping the papers together with small, shaking hands. She didn't ask for help. She didn't look up. SEALs don't fall apart this easy, the Marine Dad muttered. His wife chimed in. Maybe moms actually supply staff. Kids exaggerate. Ava tried to stand, but the teenage daughter drifted into her path, smiling thinly. Say it again, she demanded. Say your mom's a Navy SEAL. I don't want to, Ava said quietly. Marine Dad 1 crouched just enough to meet her eye level. Because it's a lie, kid. It's not, Ava whispered. The boy nudged her shin with his sneaker, light but pointed. Then prove it. She winced, breath catching. No staff noticed. The hallway was a blind spot. Doors closed, adults distracted. One of those rare corners where cruelty could grow without witnesses. Ava hugged her folder to her chest again and whispered, Please stop. She really is. They laughed in her face. And somewhere down the hall, the evening took on a different weight. The kind that meant something was about to break. Ava crouched on the cold tile, gathering her scattered papers one by one, careful not to let her hand shake, careful not to show her face. The page with her science grade was creased now. She tried smoothing it with her palm. The teenage boy still stood over her. "Hey!" he said again, voice low and taunting. "You going to cry or salute us?" She didn't look up. That's when he moved. A deliberate step forward. Not hard enough to knock her over. Not brutal but aimed. Planned. His sneaker thudded into her shin with a calculated snap just above the ankle. Enough to leave a mark. Enough to make a point. Her elbow struck the edge of the locker as she recoiled. One more page slipped from her hands. She gasped, sharp and sudden, but didn't scream. The sound echoed anyway. The Marine dad grinned from a few feet away. If she was really a SEAL's kid, she'd take a hit better. His wife added with mock concern. Maybe lying makes you weak. Laughter followed. Even the teenage girl smirked, arms folded. Ava sat frozen, legs pulled in, folder clutched against her chest again like a life preserver. The pain in her shin bloomed fast, dull, spreading. She pressed her sleeve to her eyes. "Stop," she whispered. "Please stop." But that only fueled them. Marine mom Karen stepped closer. "Or what, Ava? Going to call in the SEALs? Going to bring your imaginary mom in here to rappel through the ceiling?" Another chuckle. Another nudge of the toe. Not a kick this time, but a mock push like she was a piece of luggage in the way. From somewhere down the corridor, a student passed and kept walking. Eyes locked ahead, ears pretending not to hear. Then came the phone. The teen boy raised it casually, screen lit, camera pointed. "Let's get it on video. Caption it. When fake SEAL kids cry." Ava curled forward slightly, turning away, but didn't shield herself. She didn't want to give them that satisfaction. She just wanted the night to end. Behind them, footsteps sounded quiet, steady. Someone noticed the shift in the air. Not because of volume, but because the rhythm changed. The door at the end of the hallway eased open. No one announced it. No one called attention to it. But the boy's phone slowly lowered. The girl turned first. The parents didn't see. Not yet. But Ava did. A figure stood in the open doorway framed by dull hallway light. Motionless. Sarah Thompson was home. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Thompson didn't need to slam the door. She didn't need to shout. She just stepped inside. Hair still damp from post-training rinse. Civilian workout gear clinging to the slight sheen on her arms. No insignia. No boots. Just a plain charcoal gray zip hoodie, navy joggers, and the kind of eyes that never stopped scanning a room. She saw her daughter first. Not the bruises, not the papers, not the phone. Just Ava sitting against the lockers, lips pressed tight. One sleeve damp where she'd wiped her eyes. Sarah didn't blink, didn't ask for context, didn't need any. She moved, not rushed, not slow, and crouched next to Ava with a hand on her shoulder. "Hey," she said quietly. "You okay?" Ava nodded once, but her chin trembled. Sarah's voice dropped lower. "What happened?" "They said," Ava whispered. "You weren't real." Sarah's jaw set, but she didn't react. She glanced down, saw the shoe mark on Ava's shin, the scattered pages, the crumpled folder. "Are you hurt?" she asked. Ava gave the faintest nod. "Just my leg. It's okay." Sarah exhaled through her nose. Then she stood. Everything that followed happened in silence. She reached down, collected the creased pages with precise fingers, tapped them into a neat stack against her thigh, and slipped them carefully into Ava's folder. She handed it back to her daughter gently with one hand before stepping forward. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even sharp. It was just controlled. "Which one of you?" Sarah said, voice level and soft. "Put hands on my daughter." The hallway shrank. No one answered. The Marine dad stiffened but didn't speak. The teenage boy tucked his phone behind his back like a sixth grader caught cheating. The Marine moms instinctively stepped behind their husbands. "I asked a question," Sarah said again. Not louder, not angrier, just clearer. "Which one of you touched my daughter?" Still silence. But now the pressure had changed. Sarah wasn't leaning forward. She wasn't posturing. She just stood tall with her hands by her sides and her shoulders squared, and somehow it was more threatening than yelling ever could have been. The boy swallowed. Marine Dad Parker stepped forward half a pace, trying to recover the room. Look, this is a misunderstanding. No one meant anything. Sarah turned her head slightly, her eyes locked on him. No one meant anything, she repeated. Then why is my daughter sitting on the floor with a bruise and a torn folder? He flinched. She wasn't just a mom, and now they were realizing too late. What kind of woman just walked into the room? Marine Dad Parker lifted his chin, trying to reclaim ground. He was a big man, broad-shouldered, arms folded just wide enough to suggest authority. His voice was steady, but the edges were too polished, overcompensating. Ma'am, he began. This is a misunderstanding. Nobody was trying to hurt your kid. Sarah didn't blink. She has a boot mark on her shin. Marine Mom Karen jumped in, laughing awkwardly. They were teasing kids, roughhouse. You know how it is. Sarah stepped forward. Not aggressively, just deliberately. So, you're saying the bruise is accidental? She was exaggerating, said the teen boy from behind his father. Sarah ignored him. She looked at the Marine Dad again. You're in uniform. Retired Sergeant Major, he said proudly. 23 years. Marine? She asked. Damn right. She nodded once. Then you should have known better. Marine Dad number 2 stepped in now, flanking the first. Hold on. Who even are you? Sarah kept her voice flat. I'm her mother. Marine Mom number 2 scoffed. We got that part, but what's your angle? Showing up late and playing tough. Marine Mom Karen chimed in again. What are you, Army Reserve? You don't get to bark orders at us. Sarah's jaw moved just slightly, like she was adjusting a lock inside her own body, but her tone didn't change. She looked back at the teenage boy. You kicked her. He shook his head, eyes darting. She bumped into me. Sarah stepped forward slowly and knelt beside Ava. Gently, she pulled up the cuff of her daughter's jeans. A red mark bloomed across the front of her shin. Clean, horizontal, unmistakably shaped. Sarah stood again, folder still in one hand. That's a shoe tread. Marine Dad Parker moved closer, not violently, but with intent. He stepped into her personal space, puffed out his chest. You need to calm down, ma'am. Sarah didn't step back, didn't flinch. She simply tilted her head a few degrees, her voice smooth as glass. Are you trying to intimidate me? No one's doing that, he said, voice rising. Because if you are, she continued, you should stop now. You're already behind. There was no threat in it, no raised fist, no flex stance, but something in the way she said it made everyone feel smaller. Marine Dad number 2 tried again. Lady, we didn't know she was your kid. Sarah's eyes didn't move. You shouldn't need to. And for a moment, the entire hallway felt like it belonged to her. Marine Dad Parker took another half step forward. His voice dropped to that stiff warning register soldiers use when they want to claim control of a situation without actually knowing what they're doing. You need to lower your tone, lady, he said. Sarah didn't move, didn't blink, didn't shift her stance. Wrong audience, she replied. That was when he made the mistake. He reached out, hand flat, fingers just barely brushing her arm, like he meant to usher her back. Not forceful, not violent, but physical. Sarah moved. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't showy. It was efficient. Her right foot pivoted behind his, her left hand catching his wrist in one fluid motion. His own momentum betrayed him. She didn't throw him so much as guide him off center. His balance buckled. His hips slammed into the lockers with a thud that echoed down the corridor. Gasps spilled from the doorway. The teenage girl stepped backward. The boy froze, unsure whether to reach for his dad or run. Marine Mom Karen screamed. What the hell was that? She lunged forward like she meant to grab Sarah's shoulder, but Sarah sidestepped without effort. One lean pivot. The woman stumbled past and had to grab the wall to stop herself from falling. The teenage boy stepped in now, fist clenched, red-faced. But before he could move, Sarah turned her palm outward, stopping him with nothing but position. Try it, she said softly. He didn't. He couldn't. Marine Dad Parker groaned and pushed himself upright, breath-catching. Who the hell are you? Sarah released his wrist with mechanical precision and stepped back. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Thompson, she said. United States Navy SEAL, DevGru trained, 20-year record, currently attached to Naval Training Command. Silence swallowed the hallway. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to dim under the weight of what she just said. Marine Dad Number 2's mouth opened, but no words came. The Marine Mom stood frozen. The teenager's hands dropped to his sides like he just realized they didn't matter anymore. Sarah didn't gloat, didn't sneer, didn't puff her chest. She simply turned, walked back to her daughter, and crouched beside her again. You okay? She asked. Ava nodded, staring, not in fear, in awe, because the woman who walked into that hallway wasn't the myth they'd all mocked. She was real, and now they all knew. The door at the end of the corridor swung open fast this time. Miss Harrison stepped out, clipboard still in hand, her smile already gone. She'd heard the impact. She'd heard the gasps. And as soon as she saw who was standing where, Sarah calm and collected, the Marine Dad clutching his ribs, and Ava sitting against the lockers, her pace changed. Ava, she asked, hurrying forward. What's going on? Sarah stood slowly and spoke before anyone else could. My daughter was cornered, she said. Bullied, struck, filmed, and mocked for telling the truth about who I am. Miss Harrison blinked hard, processing too much at once. Her eyes flicked to the teenage boy with the phone. Is that true? No one answered. Not at first. Then one of the students down the hall, the quiet kid with braces who hadn't said a word all night, raised a hand halfway. They kicked her, he said. I saw it. Sarah didn't move. Her arms were folded now, not to intimidate, but to hold back everything she was still capable of doing. Miss Harrison's voice tightened. All of you into the staff room now. The Marine parents began to mumble defenses. It was a misunderstanding. She said something first. We didn't know. But the teacher wasn't having it. No, I don't want spin. I want statements. Separate chairs. I'll handle this by the book. Sarah looked down at Ava and gave her a subtle nod. A school counselor appeared moments later, summoned from the adjacent wing by a student aide who'd heard the noise. She approached gently, kneeling beside Ava. Can I sit with you a minute? Ava nodded, eyes still locked on her mother. The counselor offered a reassuring smile. Meanwhile, Miss Harrison turned back to Sarah. I'm so sorry this happened, she said quietly. We'll start a formal report immediately. Sarah's voice was low. Good, because if it happens again, she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The weight of it was enough. The teen boy was now holding his phone at waist level, thumb hovering uncertainly over the delete button. Sarah stepped forward, eyes sharp. Let me see it. He held it out. She pressed two icons. Trash, confirm, then handed it back without a word. Miss Harrison whispered, We'll handle this. Sarah nodded once. You'd better. Behind her, Ava finally looked up from the counselor's side. Her eyes were clear now, not dry, but steady, because the school wasn't just witnessing a disciplinary moment. They were witnessing a correction. They sat in the staff room like kids waiting for detention. Two Marine fathers side by side but not speaking, and their wives just across the table avoiding eye contact with everyone. The teenager who'd done the kicking sat nearest the door, phone face down on his thigh, his knee bouncing from nerves. Sarah didn't take a seat. She stood just inside the doorway, arms crossed, her presence larger than the walls could hold. Not angry, just composed like she'd done this before because she had. It was Marine Dad Parker who finally cleared his throat and looked up. We're sorry, he muttered. Shouldn't have called her a liar. Sarah didn't answer. She turned slightly and looked at Ava, who sat on a nearby bench with her counselor. Her legs were crossed now. Her folder had been smoothed out and placed beside her. She looked more like herself. Do you want to hear them say it to you? Sarah asked loud enough for the room to hear. Ava nodded once hesitantly. Sarah turned back. Then say it again. Marine Dad Parker sighed like it cost him something. Ava, we're sorry. It wasn't right. The Marine moms tried to soften it, but it came out hollow. She just surprised us. She should have said it differently. Sarah stepped forward. You don't get to rewrite this, she said. You mocked a child. Then you let your son lay hands on her because you thought she had no one watching. The teenage boy looked up flushed with shame. I didn't mean to hurt her. You did, Sarah said. You just didn't expect consequences. Marine mom Karen opened her mouth, but Sarah didn't let her speak. You're not in a unit anymore. This isn't a base. And your rank, your patches, your deployments, none of them gave you permission to bully a kid. One of the dads muttered. We didn't know she was yours. Sarah's voice didn't rise, but her tone turned to ice. You shouldn't need to know who someone belongs to before you treat them with decency. No one argued. The teacher stood by silently, watching the balance of the room settle back into something truthful. Sarah turned back to Ava, crouched at eye level again. You spoke the truth, she said gently. They couldn't handle it. That's not your fault. Ava's eyes filled but didn't spill. She leaned forward just slightly, tucking her head against her mom's shoulder. Sarah held her for 3 full seconds, then stood. And in that moment, no one in that room had any doubt who had the real authority. The PTA meeting was officially postponed. Miss Harrison had made the announcement quickly, her voice brittle with embarrassment, telling parents they'd rescheduled for another week. Most didn't ask why. The hallway whispers had already done their rounds. A few staff members stayed behind, gathering scattered chairs. The rest cleared out fast, like a tide pulling back after an unexpected storm. Sarah walked beside Ava, one hand resting lightly on her daughter's shoulder. She didn't need to guide her. Ava walked with her now, steps even, gaze forward. Her folder was tucked neatly beneath her arm. As they passed the open staff room door, murmured apologies followed them out. Low, awkward voices from people who finally understood the line that they'd crossed. One of the Marine dads gave a slow nod, not lifting his head. The teenage boy looked like he wanted to disappear entirely. Neither Sarah nor Ava paused. They didn't need more words. Outside, the air was cooler. A few leaves scraped across the parking lot as dusk settled in over the school's flagpole. The lot lights flickered on with a quiet hum. Somewhere in the distance, a car door slammed and an engine started. Ava's voice broke the silence first. Did I do something wrong? Sarah didn't answer right away. She waited until they reached the car, then unlocked it with a soft chirp and opened the passenger door for her. No, she said. You told the truth. They weren't ready to hear it. Ava climbed in, settling her folder on her lap. Sarah rounded to the driver's side, started the engine, and adjusted the mirror. They sat there for a moment, neither rushing to speak. Ava finally asked, Are you mad at them? Sarah exhaled once through her nose. No, not really. Why not? Because they already learned what they needed to. Ava nodded, eyes on the dashboard. You didn't yell at them. I didn't have to. She looked over, voice soft, but certain. Next time someone calls you a liar, Sarah said, let me handle the adults. Ava smiled a little. It wasn't wide, but it lasted. They backed out of the lot in silence. A few feet from the exit, Sarah slowed the car just long enough to glance toward the school entrance. The Marine dad, the one who'd laughed first, was standing there with his arms folded, watching them leave. He didn't wave, but he didn't sneer either. He simply lowered his head once, a silent acknowledgement. Sarah didn't return it. She just turned the wheel and drove on, her daughter safe, her silence louder than anything the room had said. What would you do if someone kicked your child for telling the truth?